I bought my parents a luxury car. I paid off all their debts. And at my mother's retirement party, she smiled and said, "We raised a fool who thinks he's important just because he pays our bills." So I stopped paying. And then I got 105 missed calls. I'm the guy who always says yes. Can you help me out this month? Yes. Can you cover this bill? Yes. You wouldn't let your own parents struggle, would you? Of course not. For years, I've been my family's financial crutch. It started small, covering a few bills here and there, helping out when my parents needed a little extra. But before I knew it, I was paying for everything. The mortgage, the car payments, my mother's medical bills, even my father's golf club membership. And it wasn't just money they took. It was everything I could offer. I'm a corporate lawyer, one of the best in my firm. I work 70 hours a week, negotiating multi-million-dollar contracts, making sure my clients never step foot in a courtroom. I don't have a wife, kids, time for vacations, time for anything really except work. And my family took full advantage of that. My sister Anna got used to calling me every time she needed money for rent or a new phone. My cousin Mark, who ran a struggling construction company, had me handling his legal work for free. Contract reviews, agreements, lawsuits. Even my parents depended on me for everything. I drafted their wills, negotiated a better deal on their insurance, and bailed my dad out after he crashed into someone's car. So when my mother was finally ready to retire, I pulled out all the stops. I threw her a party she could never have afforded. I thought for once maybe they'd be proud of me. Maybe I'd be more than their personal ATM. I was wrong. The humiliation, I shouldn't have eavesdropped. My mother's retirement party was huge. A fancy restaurant, live music, over 100 guests, family, friends, former colleagues. I handled everything. The food, the venue, even a slideshow with highlights of her career. At some point in the evening, I stepped out to take a client call. When I came back, I heard my mother's voice coming from the hallway near the restrooms. I wasn't trying to listen, but then I heard my name. Does he really think that just because he pays for all that, it makes him important? I froze. Well, you said he's so naive, my Aunt Linda laughed. My mother sighed dramatically. Of course he is. We raised a fool who thinks he's important just because he pays our bills. Casual, effortless laughter. Like they were talking about the weather. Well, at least he's useful, my father chuckled. He brings the money and the free legal work, added my cousin Mark. Not the worst fool to have in the family. I stood there, numb. A fool. That's all I was to them. Not a son, not a brother, not family. Just some idiot willing to hand over his money and skills without question. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. The one thing they never expected. I walked back into the banquet hall, heart pounding, head spinning. The party was in full swing, guests laughing, drinking, completely oblivious to the fact that everything had just changed. I went straight to my table, pulled out my phone, and right there in front of everyone I opened my banking app. What are you doing? Anna asked, frowning. I canceled all the automatic payments linked to your accounts. Mortgage, utilities, car payments, insurance, everything. Gone. What do you mean gone? My father asked, setting his drink down with a frown. Slowly, I said, savoring each word. It means you're on your own now. My mother's smile vanished. Ethan, stop being dramatic, she snapped, her voice sharp and annoyed. Dramatic? I let out a short, bitter laugh. No, this is long overdue. You think I'm naive for paying your bills? Fine. Let's see how well you do paying them yourselves. The room went silent. Ethan, you can't be serious, my Uncle Marco said, laughing nervously. Oh, I'm completely serious. I turned to Mark. And by the way, if you need legal help, hire a lawyer. I'm done. Mark's jaw clenched. You're really doing this? Over a joke. I didn't respond. Calmly, coldly. I'm doing this because I finally see you for who you are. Anna scoffed. Oh my God, grow up. You're acting like a child. No, I said. I'm acting like someone who just canceled a bad contract. And with that I turned and walked out. And none of them could stop me. The first 2 days were dead silent. Then the calls started. First it was my mother. Ethan, you forgot to send the money for the electricity, dear. Can you fix that today? Ignored. Then my father. Son, this is serious. If we don't pay the insurance. Ignored. Then Anna. Seriously, you're punishing everyone for a stupid comment? Grow up. Ignored. By the end of the week, I had 37 missed calls. By the end of the month, the number had climbed to 105. And that's when the real chaos began. In hindsight, maybe I was wrong. But the silence didn't last long. After the 105 missed calls, they switched tactics. First came the guilt-tripping texts. Mom. Ethan, we're your family. Families don't do this to each other. Dad. Your mother is so stressed she can't sleep. Don't you care? Anna. Wow, so you're just going to abandon us like we're strangers? I didn't reply. Then came the passive-aggressive social media posts. Anna wrote, some people only do things for others so they can throw it in their face later. True love is unconditional. I let out a bitter chuckle when I saw that. Unconditional? I'd been paying their bills for years without asking for anything in return, and now that I stopped, I was the villain. Then they got desperate. Mom. Ethan, they cut off our electricity today. We have no lights. How could you do this to us? That one almost made me cave. Almost. But then I remembered that I'd been paying that bill for years, and every time I asked Mom if they needed help organizing their finances, she'd just say in a carefree tone, oh, don't worry about it, honey. We'll figure it out. Well, it was time for them to figure it out. A week later came the unexpected visit. I was in the middle of reviewing a case when my assistant called. Ethan, your family is here. They don't have an appointment, but they say it's urgent. I sighed, rubbing my temples and closed my eyes. For a moment I should have expected this. Send them to the conference room, I replied. I closed my laptop and walked to the room where I found Mom, Dad, and Anna sitting with long faces. Ethan, Mom began, her tone firm. This has gone on long enough. You made your point. Now let's be reasonable and fix this. Fix what? I asked, leaning casually against the table. The bills, she snapped. We're behind on everything. The mortgage, the car, the insurance. Not my problem, I replied bluntly. Dad shook his head. Son, you can't just cut us off like this. We're family. Oh, I can. And I did, I said, my voice firm, staring them down. Anna crossed her arms and let out an incredulous laugh. So what, you expect us to suffer now? You mean like how I suffered? I shot back, bitterness lacing my tone. Working 70 hours a week to pay for everything while you sat back and laughed at me? It was just a joke, Ethan, she huffed. You're blowing this all out of proportion. I leaned forward, placing my hands on the table, letting each word come out with clarity. I'm going to be very clear. You laughed at me. You belittled me. You used me. And when I finally stand up for myself, suddenly I'm the bad guy. No, that's not how this works. Mom switched tactics, adopting a sweet tone, feigning compassion. Honey, we never meant to hurt you. We just assumed you enjoyed helping us. Enjoy. I let out a dry laugh. Did I ever have a choice? No one said anything. Not a word. Exactly. Dad, visibly more nervous, tried another strategy. Okay, Ethan, let's make a deal. Maybe you don't have to cover everything, but just help us with the most important stuff. The house, the car, the insurance. That's fair, right? I smiled slowly, savoring the look of relief that flashed across their faces. Sure. I'll make a deal, I said slowly. For a moment it looked like everything was going to be okay. But then I continued. I'll pay everything again. If you sign a contract stating you'll pay me back every single penny. With interest. The relief vanished instantly. Don't be ridiculous. Mom snapped, her voice a mix of indignation and rage. Oh, I'm very serious. I pulled a blank contract from my bag and set it on the table. Since you all like using me for my legal skills so much, let's make this official. Anna stared at me, mouth agape. You really expect us to pay you back? Yes. You never asked for the money back before, she protested. And you never valued it before, I countered. Dad slammed his hand on the table, knuckles white. You're acting like a complete stranger. I stared at him, unmoved. You made it clear that the only reason you put up with me was because I paid for everything. So now let's see if you still want me around without my wallet. Dead silence. Mom looked at the contract, then at me. You're serious? Completely. She pushed her chair back and stood up, raising her voice. Fine. Keep your money. But don't expect us to come crawling back. When you realize you need us. I won't, I responded firmly. Anna stormed out first, then Dad, and finally Mom. I sank back in my chair, exhaling. For the first time in years, I smiled. A month passed. The missed calls dwindled. The manipulative texts faded away. Then one afternoon, I received a text message from Anna. We're selling the house. Mom and Dad can't afford it without your help. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed, not my problem. Good luck. This time when I pressed send, I didn't feel a single ounce of guilt. After my family marched out of my office, I thought they would finally give up. But I was wrong. First, they tried appealing to emotions. Anna sent me a long text about the importance of family and how I was turning my back on the people who raised me. Dad left a voicemail, his voice heavy with disappointment. I thought I raised a better man than this. Ethan, you're letting us all down. Anna just sent a short message. You're pathetic. I ignored them all. Then they escalated. One night, my phone vibrated with an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Ethan? Hey, it's Tom. Tom, my parents' neighbor. A guy I'd known for years but never really kept in touch with. Hi Tom. What's up? Listen, buddy, I ran into your parents the other day. They're pretty bad off, man. Your mom hasn't stopped crying, and your dad looks like he's lost like 10 pounds. They're really struggling, Ethan. I clenched my jaw. And what do you want me to do, Tom? I don't know, buddy. I think they need you. I know there's been a lot of drama, but they're still your family. You're really gonna let them lose their house. There it was, the attempted third-party manipulation. Did they tell you why they're in this situation? I asked. Well, Tom hesitated. Did they tell you that for years it was me who paid for everything? I covered their mortgage, their debts, their cars. Silence. No, they didn't mention that, he finally admitted. I figured as much, I replied coldly. Tom, I respect you, but don't call me again about this. It's not my problem anymore. I hung up. A week later, I got a call from my firm's HR department. Ethan, we need to talk. A situation has come up. My stomach dropped. What kind of situation? A woman claiming to be your mother called us this morning. She seemed very distraught. Said you've been having a mental breakdown and that she was worried about your well-being. I blinked in disbelief. What? What did she say? She asked us to check on you, make sure you were okay. Even hinted that maybe your workload was too heavy and that maybe you needed to take a break. I felt rage begin to simmer inside me. This wasn't just manipulation. This was a deliberate attempt to sabotage my job. You know this is a complete lie, right? I responded, barely containing my fury. Of course, but we had to inform you. She made it sound like a pretty serious mental health crisis. We're glad to hear you're okay. I'm perfectly fine, I said through gritted teeth. But if she calls again, tell her to stay out of my business. I hung up furious. They were escalating and I had a feeling this wasn't over yet. The final attempt came 2 weeks later. I was working when I received an urgent voicemail from Anna. Ethan, please, I know you hate us right now, but I need your help. It's about Dad. He's in trouble. Serious trouble. Please just call me back. I didn't trust her, but a small part of me, the part that still cared, made me call her back. She answered immediately. Ethan, she said, her voice shaky like she'd been crying. What's going on? I asked. Dad got himself into something bad, she sobbed. He borrowed money from the wrong people, loan sharks. They're threatening to take the house. I rubbed the bridge of my nose, trying to remain calm. Anna, cut the crap. I swear to you it's true, she insisted. He didn't tell us anything until it was too late. They came to the house, Ethan, and they said if we don't pay them 50,000 pesos before the end of the month, they'll take legal action. A chill ran down my spine. Not because I believed her, but because I knew it was a scam. As a lawyer, I know how real loan sharks operate. They don't send legal notices. They don't threaten lawsuits. They use their fists, not lawyers. Besides, 50,000 pesos was exactly the amount I used to send them every year to cover their expenses. It was too perfect to be a coincidence. Put Dad on the phone, I demanded. He's not home right now, Anna replied quickly. I want to hear it from him. I can't. He's too stressed to talk. That confirmed it. Nice try, I said coldly, letting each word fall like a hammer. But you're a terrible liar. Ethan, I swear this is real. Oh yeah? Then tell me, what's the name of the loan shark? It's a lending. I laughed out loud. Lending? That's an actual bank, Anna. Not a loan shark. Silence. You just made that up, didn't you? I know. Don't bother, I said with disdain. This is the sloppiest scam I've ever seen. At least put some effort into it next time. Ethan, please. Good luck paying that debt without me. I hung up. That was it. The last straw. I blocked their numbers, changed my email, even told the receptionist at my firm not to accept any calls from my family. For the first time in my life, I felt free. A week later, I got one final text from my mother. We're selling the house. Hope you're happy. I stared at the text for a long moment. Then I replied, I am. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel a single ounce of guilt. Cutting ties with them should have been the end. But people like my family don't give up that easily. First, there was silence. No texts, no calls. And even though it had been weeks since the loan shark scam attempt, I figured they'd finally understood I wasn't coming back. Then I got a call from my Uncle Ray. I hesitated before answering. He wasn't someone I spoke to often, just a distant relative who lived in another state. Ethan. Hi, Uncle Ray. What's up? Look, I hate to get involved in family matters, but your mom called me. Says you abandoned them. I rolled my eyes. Did she also tell you that I paid for everything for years? Well, she may have omitted that part. Wow, what a surprise. Ethan, I don't want to take sides, but they're really struggling. They're losing their house, your dad's a mess, and Anna is barely coping. Not my problem anymore, Ray. Ray sighed. I get it, kid. I really do. But, family is family. I clenched my jaw. Is that what she told you? That I just abandoned them out of the blue? Silence. Ray, let me save you some time. I paid off their debts. I covered their mortgage. I even bought them a luxury car. And you know what I got in return? They laughed at me behind my back. Called me an idiot. Said the only reason they put up with me was because I paid for everything. Another silence. This one longer. Finally, Ray cleared his throat. Yeah, she definitely omitted that part. So no, Ray. I'm not paying another dime. All right, kid. Won't bother you again. Click. One by one, they were losing allies. The real downfall began 2 months later. Their house was officially foreclosed on. The luxury car was repossessed. My father's business finally collapsed. They were finally feeling the real consequences of their actions. Then, out of the blue, I received an email from an unknown sender with the subject line. Are you sure you want to do this to your own mother? I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. When I opened it, my stomach sank. It was a GoFundMe page with the title, Desperate Mother on the Brink of Homelessness After Betrayal by Heartless Son. I felt a mixture of rage and disbelief as I read the description. According to the text, after years of sacrificing for her children, our dear mother had been abandoned by the son she trusted most, a wealthy lawyer who had cruelly left her with nothing. Now she was about to lose her home and desperately needed help. Alongside the post were old photos of our family, pictures where I was smiling, where I looked like the loving son they were now using as a tool to evoke pity. At the bottom of the page, the amount raised stopped me cold. $12,450 of a $50,000 goal. I clenched my fists. They weren't just scamming strangers. Worst of all, it was working. I could have ignored it, let them continue with their fraudulent campaign. But they made one crucial mistake. They used my full name. And that was defamation. I immediately forwarded the page to a friend who specialized in cybersecurity. Within hours, he traced the IP address linked to the GoFundMe. Guess where it came from? Anna's laptop. I smiled ironically. Gotcha. Then I called my lawyer. Hey Greg. You still handling defamation cases? Always. Who's the target? My own family. I sent him the GoFundMe link, screenshots, proof that the money wasn't going to my mother, that almost $10,000 had already been withdrawn. Greg whistled. Wow, Ethan, this is crossing a line. Even for family. Yeah, well, they started it. I'm just finishing it. You want us to send a cease and desist letter first? Or are we going straight for legal action? I thought for a moment, then said firmly, no mercy. In less than 48 hours the GoFundMe page was shut down, and all the funds were frozen. It wasn't long before Anna called me, screaming with fury. You had no right. Oh, I had every right, I responded calmly. That's called fraud, Anna. We were just trying to survive. You were trying to steal from innocent people. And now you're facing the real consequences of your actions. She went silent. Oh, and by the way, I added coldly, I also notified GoFundMe about your fraud. So enjoy explaining your little sob story to them. I hung up without giving her a chance to respond. A week later, I heard from Uncle Ray that Anna had been forced to return the money to the donors. My parents were still drowning in debt, now without their last resort. A month later, I received one last voicemail from my mother. Her voice sounded hollow, like she'd finally run out of excuses. Ethan, I know you hate us, but we're your family. I don't know what to do anymore. Please just talk to me. I sat there listening to the message in silence. For a moment I felt something. It wasn't guilt or regret. It was that strange feeling you get when you realize a cycle has ended. Then I deleted it. For the first time in my life I didn't owe them anything. Not my time, not my money, not my explanations. This time I didn't look back. 6 months have passed since I cut them off. 6 months since I stopped paying their bills. 6 months since I took down their GoFundMe scam. 6 months since I heard my mother's voice. At first, I expected another wave of manipulation. Maybe they'd send more relatives to guilt-trip me. Maybe Anna would try another scam. Maybe my father would show up at my office, demanding that I fix everything. But nothing happened. Just silence. I should have felt relieved, but instead I felt strange. It wasn't regret, definitely not guilt, just a weird sense of emptiness. The kind of emptiness you feel when you realize the people you once called family were nothing but parasites you finally managed to shake off. One night, arriving home late from work, I tossed my briefcase onto the counter. Just then my phone vibrated with an unknown number. I hesitated for a moment, but against my better judgment I answered. Hello. A female voice came through, shaky, but it wasn't my mother's. Ethan? It's me, Kelly. I blinked, surprised. Kelly, my cousin Jacob's wife. Though we'd never been particularly close, she'd always been quiet, observant. The only one in the family who never treated me like an ATM. Kelly. I responded cautiously. What is it? I don't know if I should be calling you, but I thought you should know. Your parents moved in with Anna. I frowned. And Kelly paused, as if carefully choosing her words. Things are bad, Ethan. Really bad. I didn't say anything, so she continued. Anna's business went under. The house is a mess. Your mom and dad barely leave their rooms, and Anna's completely out of control. She drinks too much, yells at everyone, and last week she told me that she wished you were never born. I let out a dry chuckle. That's nothing new. No, Ethan, this time it's different. Anna's unraveling. And now that they don't have you anymore, they're tearing each other apart. I leaned against the counter, my stomach clenching. Is she sick? I don't know exactly. She's lost a lot of weight, barely talks, and Anna won't take her to the doctor because they don't have money for it. Your dad just sits there drinking. This was their reality now. For years they lived off me, squandering money while laughing behind my back, treating me as if I were disposable. Now, ironically, they were disposable to each other. Kelly, I said after a moment, why are you really calling me? There was another pause, one of those that feel longer than they actually are, until finally she admitted the truth. Your mother asked me to call you. She wouldn't do it herself. She said she'd rather die than beg you for help. But Ethan, I think deep down she's hoping you'll come back. I closed my eyes. There it was, their last desperate attempt. Not a direct plea, not this time. Now they were playing on guilt, on wounded pride, on fear disguised as pride. I let the silence stretch, letting my thoughts settle, until Kelly sighed resignedly. I know. They don't deserve it, she murmured, her voice as quiet as it always was. But I also know you, and I know this isn't easy for you either. I clenched my jaw. She wasn't wrong. Inside I felt a whirlwind of rage, disappointment, and something else I couldn't quite name. Part of me wanted to cave, to go back to being that obedient son who said yes to everything. But another part, the part that remembered all the times they'd used me, flatly refused. They made their choice, I finally said. And now they have to live with it. Kelly sighed again, this time sadly. Yeah, I figured you'd say that. There was a short pause, then in an almost melancholic tone she added, You seem like a good person, Ethan. Don't let them drag you down with them. She let out a bitter laugh. The kind of laugh you make when you've already lost too much. Too late for that. Click. I stared at my phone for a long moment. Part of me wanted to forget it all, pretend the call never happened. But another part, the part that still remembered my mother before she became what she is today, couldn't leave it like that. Then I did something I never thought I would do. I unblocked my mother's number and sent one last message. I know you're sick. Go to a hospital. You can still fix this for yourself. But don't expect anything more from me. This is the last time I acknowledge you as part of my life. She read it immediately but didn't respond. And for the first time I didn't care. The end of the story. Months passed and I never heard from them again. I don't know if my mother went to the doctor. I don't know if my father stopped drinking. I don't know if Anna managed to climb out of the abyss she was falling into. And I don't care. For the first time in my life, I don't carry the weight of anyone else. I am finally free.